This is the True Crime Nation podcast with your hosts, Todd and Brian. If you're enjoying the show or have suggestions for future shows, you can email us at truecrimenation@outlook.com. And as always, let's start the show. Okay. Hello. Welcome back to the show. This is the True Crime Nation podcast. Like the intro said, I'm Brian. That guy right over there is Todd.
What's up? What's up?
We have some interesting shows tonight. Tell the people what we got.
Well, you know, as we talked about earlier, we're going to talk about some Grand Canyon missing or murdered cases.
Missing or murdered?
Evolving around the Grand Canyon, yes.
Look out.
There's a lot of mysteriousness that goes on around the Grand Canyon.
There is, from aliens to creepy crawly things.
Whatever, to strange people, to murders, to missing people. So we thought we'd talk about a few cases there, a couple cases there, see how far we get into it tonight. But
make you think about it a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. Some interesting stuff. So why don't you go ahead?
Sounds like fun.
Have at it there, sir.
Sounds like fun. This is our first one on missing or murdered in the Grand Canyon. Justin Lee Richardson disappeared from the Grand Canyon area in 2001 and has never been found. Grand Canyon, Arizona. Even in large rural swaths of Coconino County, surrounding the Grand Canyon in the town of TCN, we got to find some stories with easier pronounced names.
It may be Coconino. I'm guessing
Coconino
or Coconino. Probably Coconino. Yeah, I'd say Coconino. Let's go with Coconino.
Coconino. We'll go with that. Coconino County Sheriff's Department, CCSO. Okay, that's easier. CCSO prides itself on being able to recover missing children quickly, whether they are runaways, victims of abduction, or simply get lost. As of now, there is one unsolved missing child case in the county, and that's Justin Richardson, who went missing in 2001 in the Kaibab National Forest, a few miles outside the community of TCN and Grand Canyon. He was 13 years old.
Have you ever heard of that place?
The Grand Canyon, yeah.
No, the Kaibab National Forest.
Oh,
For some reason, I feel like I've heard of it.
I didn't even know there was a national forest by the Grand Canyon. I thought it was all desert.
Actually, you know, you'd think that, but there's some wooded area around there. In certain spots. Yep.
Well, according to reports, Richardson entered the forest about 5 miles west of the former Mokai Lodge, which has since been torn down. He was with 3 male friends at the time, all of them between ages 18 and 21. Authorities believe he went into the forest with the men with the intention of using drugs. There was evidence he had been using drugs and alcohol for about a year prior to his disappearance. Now, what the hell is a 13-year-old kid doing with 18 and 21-year-olds?
Getting high, man. Getting high. But because you said
that's stellar parenting right there.
Because he was with older children and adults. I'm sorry, basically he was with adults.
All adults, yeah.
Over 18 and over, that leads me to believe they had something to do with this disappearance.
That's what I'm thinking too. While in the forest, Justin and one of the men became separated from the other two. The man with Justin hiked out of the forest alone to TCN, where he asked for help locating the other two men before returning to the forest to look for them. During this time, authorities said the missing men had followed the railroad tracks back toward Williams. They had been located by Grand Canyon Railway employees about 15 miles south of TCN, although Richardson wasn't aware of this. Around 9 a.m., authorities said the man searching with Justin came down off the methamphetamines and fell asleep in the forest. When he woke several hours later, he said Justin was gone. The man was able to make his way to a dirt road where he hitched a ride back to TCN. He didn't, however, report Justin missing.
Okay.
Here we go.
You don't. Let's back up here for a second. He came down off methamphetamines and fell asleep.
Right.
Do you think you just come down and pass out off methamphetamine?
No. First of all, that's a couple day high, isn't it?
I mean, yeah, those guys are like tweaking out there. They're not just going to fall asleep.
No.
It sounds to me like there's some foul play going on here, if you ask me. Didn't even report him missing. He didn't say, "Hey, my buddy's out there too."
Yep, didn't even say a word.
Mm-hmm.
Justin was reported missing by his family July 2nd, 3 days after he initially disappeared. Justin lived with his father in TCN while his mother lived in Flagstaff. Recalling the case, CCSO Commander Rex Gilliand said Justin had been a popular boy and was well liked, and he pretty much came and went as he pleased at his father's home. Yep, there you go.
Troubled kid, doing drugs, 13 years old, in the woods tweaking on methamphetamine. Who knows what could have happened?
Is he troubled? I don't know. It didn't sound very troubled.
Well, he's just doing drugs at that age. I mean, in my opinion, if you're doing drugs at 12, 13, you're troubled, right?
I wasn't troubled.
Okay.
Were you troubled?
I wasn't doing drugs at 12 or 13.
Liar.
Quite a few years after that before I touched anything.
No kidding. You were a good boy, huh?
I was actually 20 before I touched alcohol.
You, Mr. Straight-laced.
Alcohol or other substances. However, I made up for lost time, believe me, in my lifetime.
Okay. See, that's why you got to listen to the show, because you get a glimpse of inside our lives, as well as great true crime stories.
Right. We've committed crimes. We just never got caught.
Right. Exactly. And one murder.
Right. No, nothing like that. Maybe.
Let's see. Where were we? He had run away before. In fact, and authorities at the time explored the possibility that Justin could have taken the opportunity to do so again, hitchhiking out of town. He had a girlfriend in Chicago he had been wanting to see. This is still that 13-year-old kid we're talking about?
Apparently. He had a girlfriend in Chicago. He was doing meth out in the woods. This kid was rocking it.
Man, wow.
He had,
Makes my 13-year-old self seem like a choir boy.
My sitting at home playing Atari ass boring.
Shit. Unfortunately, Gilliland says the department now feels that Justin was probably a victim of homicide, killed in the forest around the time he went missing.
Mm-hmm.
Which is what we're thinking too. Ultimately, around 64 miles of forest was searched on foot, horseback, and with helicopters. Nothing was found. Captain Terry Lawson, who worked the case at the time, pointed out that it would have been difficult for Justin to become lost for very long. He had been in the area several times before he had knowledge of the terrain. Helicopters constantly crisscross the skies above the area, Lawson said at the time, and Justin would have known he could follow them back to TCN. Lawson also said there were numerous landmarks in the area, and a local resident like Justin would have known there were many fences, power lines, and well-traveled dirt roads, as well as railroad tracks he could have used to make his way back to town. After interviewing the men with Justin the day he disappeared, authorities at the time ruled out foul play. How do you rule out foul play?
That's why they never found this kid, for one.
Yeah. Although they continue to keep track of persons of interest in the case more than 15 years later, one of the men is deceased, although that incident doesn't appear to be related to Justin's case. With limited water supply and no food, Justin wouldn't have survived more than a week or so. In 2014, Justin's case was turned over to the Cold Case Unit, which uncovered evidence that he did in fact return to Moquai Lodge after he was last seen, although they declined to say what the evidence was. He is no longer considered a runaway, given the amount of time that has passed without any family contact, sightings, or law enforcement contact. Wow, that is some stellar law enforcement work, man.
Okay. So
fucking idiots. No wonder Arizona's such a mess.
The cold case unit uncovered evidence that he did in fact return to the lodge after he was last seen.
Right.
They declined to say what the evidence was. Okay. What could that have been?
Had to have been somebody that saw him.
Unless the cameras. Yeah, when was
2001.
This?
Yeah, it could have been cameras.
Cameras saw this guy walking back through. Was it him? Was it articles? Did someone take it from him and leave him there to make it look like he came back?
Or was it caught on camera and it was a kid that looked like him and they were like, oh, there he is.
Wearing a hoodie like he maybe had on?
Maybe.
Yeah, like you said, stellar police work in this one. Where did this happen at?
Man.
The Grand Canyon, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably why there's so much missing and murder in the Grand Canyon. Nothing ever gets solved.
The Barney Fifes running the police department out there.
It's easy to get away with stuff, huh?
We shouldn't knock the police. I mean, it's a hard job, but come on, man, right. Really? This one's pretty much open and shut. I mean, yeah, the 4 guys that were with him, pretty much guaranteed one of them did it.
Okay, let's just say hypothetically.
And if you keep a meth head locked up long enough, eventually they're going to start going through withdrawals and they're going to tell you what the fuck happened.
Even if that's not what really happened, they'll tell you what you want to hear.
They'll tell you exactly. Yep.
So let's say that he did. Let's say that the evidence that they do have is correct and that he did come back to the lodge.
Right.
After they picked up the other dude or whatever, the other guys came back home. If they truly have evidence that they know 100% that he did come back to the lodge after he was out in the woods, then what happened to him after that? Where'd he go?
Yeah. What did he go back into the woods and
did he go get more?
I'm going to go die in the woods.
Did he go get more meth and go back out in the woods and tweak out and just die out there?
Maybe. You never know. Maybe. I doubt it. I don't think he ever made it back to that place.
Still sounds suspicious to me.
Yep. I think they're just trying to cover up shoddy detective work.
Still sounds very suspicious to me.
Mm-hmm.
When you have a young kid like that, maybe he OD'd. Maybe he OD'd. They buried him.
Yeah, maybe. I could be.
If the kid would have been doing mushrooms or something like that, or even smoking weed and passed out in the woods, that's one thing. But you're not going to pass out doing methamphetamines.
No.
Not even a couple hours afterwards,
No.
Like you said, it's an all-day high. It's hours, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. That's a long time. What I heard. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't either. I don't want to know.
More people have told me, yeah, it's not like cocaine. It's like, and this shit's going to keep you up for a while.
Right. You better pack a lunch because you're going to be up for a while. You won't eat it.
You won't eat
it, but you'll be up for a while.
That's right. So, I'm thinking they went out there, they did the meth. The guy, whoever he was with, had a bad trip, freaked out, something, and killed him. Or he OD'd.
I think he OD'd and they hid his body because they didn't want to go to jail. They were all 18 and over.
That very well could be.
His remains are still somewhere in that area.
Somewhere in those woods.
That area where they were. And I'll bet you. Why wouldn't they take dogs out there? Did they take dogs out there? I know they took horses.
Didn't say anything about dogs.
Why didn't they take cadaver dogs out there,
Didn't say anything about dogs. Just searched on foot, horseback, and with helicopters.
Any law enforcement that is listening that works for the Grand Canyon area who could find out where these boys were doing this drugs in this woods, get some cadaver dogs out there. You might find something. Wouldn't hurt, right?
Couldn't hurt. And again, we love the police. Thank you for all your service.
Yes. All the police. Yes, we're not knocking.
99% of the police are awesome people, and we're glad you're working.
You
Keep up
know,
the good work.
they probably have a lot going on there too in that
Oh,
area.
I'm
There's
sure they
probably a
probably
lot of
have a lot of stuff going on,
missing people, murders, deaths just by people falling, what
and they
have
got to
you.
be good at their job because, like you said, this is the only one that still hasn't been solved. So
That is true. The
they
only
gotta know what they're
missing
doing. So
child case.
forget about everything I said earlier.
I'll just edit all that out up until now.
It's gonna be in the video now.
Okay, I won't edit it out.
I don't edit it out.
But
I
anyway,
apologize for
oh, they're fine.
my out of line remarks earlier about the
They're fine.
police. But
No, you're good. They believe in you.
all right, so there you go. There's the first one. You guys can discuss that one, see what you think. If he
Yeah.
was murdered, if he just got lost and wandered off, or OD'd or whatever. So
Yeah. Let us know. Email us. We'll take
something to think about. TrueCrimeNation@outlook.com.
Yes.
All right, story number 2.
Who we got?
Michael and Charlotte Sherman found dead in 1977.
It's found dead. Okay, this is a murdered. So we did a missing. Now we're doing a murdered. Grand Canyon,
Well,
Arizona.
we don't know if they've been murdered or not. Just says found dead. Doesn't say found dead
Oh,
murdered.
okay. I'm assuming I shouldn't do that.
So we don't know if it's a murder yet or not.
Could be
They
a
could have
murder
just
suicide.
fallen off a cliff and banged their heads or something. And we don't know. So
That's
we're gonna find
true.
out.
How terrible of me to assume that.
That's right.
Go
That's
ahead,
okay.
sir.
That's all right. That's what we're here for.
My
To try and
instinctiveness
figure
is
these out.
telling me
That they were murdered. All right, but we're
maybe.
going to find out right now.
Okay.
Again, Grand Canyon, Arizona. Cold winter winds were soaring through the Grand Canyon on January 22nd, 1977.
Okay.
Even though it was snowing and fog limited visibility that day, Michael and Charlotte Sherman had stopped to take in the sights that morning on their way to California from Texas. As it turns out, the Shermans never got to bask in the warm California sun. Both were shot execution style on the back of the head just before 11 a.m. The perpetrators were never apprehended. Well, you were right. They were murdered.
Look, I'm not going to say I have extinctive mind or anything, or that maybe I've read this before we did this
or that you
show.
probably read the story. Yeah.
But yeah, I just kind of had a hunch. Shot execution style. These
Yeah.
guys were out looking at just on a
They're just
vacation,
sightseeing.
sightseeing, dude, and they were shot execution style. Can you imagine how horrific that would be? You and your woman
Nope.
just out on vacation, stopping by, like saying you're on your knees and somebody's got a gun in the back of your head.
Popped in the back of your head.
And the first one that got shot, the second one, how terrifying they'd be.
Yeah. Yeah.
You wouldn't get me in. Okay, let me say this real quick before we go on.
Okay.
You
Go
wouldn't
ahead.
get me in the execution style. You wouldn't get me that point. You wouldn't
Oh,
get me.
no. We'd be fighting. You'd have to shoot me.
You wouldn't be
in the
tied up.
face.
I wouldn't be tied up. I would be handcuffed. I wouldn't be. No, you. That's where it would go down. And that's advice I'm going to give you guys. I think we've said this before. The longer you're in a situation of a kidnapping or what have you, being tied up, whatever, the longer you allow it to continue, the worse your chances of surviving or getting away are. So you have to
Oh, yeah.
react right away. If somebody's trying to put duct tape on your feet or your hand, and you gotta
Fight.
don't just do what they say, even if they have a gun. Don't do what they say
You're
because
going to die either way.
you're gonna
So
die.
might as well go out fighting.
And the chances of them following through and shooting you, then they're not gonna expect. They're gonna think you're gonna listen to them. I don't think most people plan on shooting somebody. Wouldn't do
Plus, if
them
you
any
go out
good.
fighting, then
Yeah.
you leave more DNA on them.
Yep. And scream as loud as you can.
That's right.
But anyway, let's talk about poor Michael and Charlotte. That's terrifying and terrible, tragic news.
This is wow. Uh, Michael and Charlotte were 27 years old, and they were young.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a scenario that has confounded community members and law enforcement alike for more than 40 years. There were cars driving by on Hermit Road. There were people milling around Powell Point, only yards away, and yet no one saw anything that could lead investigators to the murderers. Nobody saw anything or heard gunshots. Really?
Yeah, and so how do they know it was just before 11 a.m.? Just by the
Probably. I don't know. Post
more
mortem
post
stuff. Just
mortem bleed
I don't know how they do it.
blood.
The pooling of the blood and blah
Yeah.
blah blah.
Okay.
Joe Sumner, who worked the case as an investigative services branch agent before retiring in 2007, told investigators at the time that it was the first case he'd ever heard of in which two people were robbed and shot dead in broad daylight in a busy national park. They were shot execution style, he said. It appears someone was lying in wait. Why them? Now I'm wondering because how many other people had walked by there that day, that spot that day?
Well, it said there were people just yards away and they didn't
Yeah,
see. Did they hear the gunshot?
that's what I'm saying. Nobody heard a gunshot either.
Did the guy use a silencer back in 1977? I
Oh,
guess they
I wouldn't think
existed.
so. I wouldn't think so. Not like they do now. So I don't know. It just sounds to me like
So maybe
they were
somebody would just walked up
targeted,
and shot him in the back of the head real quick. Maybe they weren't down on their knees or nothing. He just came up behind him and boom,
but
boom.
they were robbed.
After he shot him, maybe.
Hmm, I don't know. Doesn't say. They were robbed and shot dead. That's all it says. Sounds to
Okay.
me like they were targeted. We'll go on
Yeah,
and see what we'll
definitely
go on and see
targeted.
what happens.
Definitely targeted.
Investigators in 1977 concluded that the motive for the killings was robbery, as Michael's wallet and Charlotte's purse was taken and never recovered. Their bodies weren't immediately discovered as they had been dragged around the back of the Powell Memorial. Both were shot twice in the head with a .22 caliber handgun.
They were dragged.
Yeah, that's
This
that's
is strange, isn't it?
that's pretty expert, man. that's, that's pretty expert. And 22, that's why nobody probably heard it because
Sounds like a little
that's not like a
cat
38
gun
or a
going off.
44.
Right.
Yeah. Witnesses in the park at the time reported seeing both a man and a woman in the vicinity of Powell Point at the time the Shermans were murdered, but they have never been positively identified. A profile distributed by the here we go again. The Coconino County Sheriff's Department said the pair was driving a light tan, cream, or off-white station wagon, possibly a 1969 Ford Fairlane or Galaxy, a 1970 Rambler, or a 1963 Chevy Impala. Now that narrows it down, doesn't it?
What the? Okay.
They said the pair was driving a light tan, cream, or off-white station wagon, possibly a 1965 Ford Fairlane or Galaxy,
Okay.
a 1975 Rambler, or a 1963 Chevy Impala.
So a Chevy
But none of
Impala.
those fucking cars look alike.
Right.
The vehicle had a ski or luggage rack held down with bungee cords.
How do you say that? Well, it was a station wagon. No, it was a
Could have been an
Rambler.
Impala.
What is a Rambler? Isn't it kind of
Maybe
like a
it's a
Bronco
Fairlane.
or something? Is a Rambler
No,
like a
Rambler's a
Bronco?
car.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't look like an Impala, does it?
No, none of those cars look alike. Well, the Fairlane and the Galaxy might, but
Well, that's what they said, or Galaxy. I never heard of a Galaxy, but it did say the vehicle had a ski or luggage rack, regardless of which one it looked like. They know that it had a ski or luggage rack. No wonder
yeah.
this isn't solved because of these witnesses.
Yeah. Could have been an Impala or Rambler. Might have been a Galaxy. Could have been a station wagon. No, no. Could have been white, maybe beige. While the pair are not being called suspects, Sumner said they may have important information about the case. All American couple. According to his brother, Ken Sherman, Michael was a close friend. Ken told the Times Herald Record of Middletown, New York. He had planned to move next door to his brother. Wait a minute. Is this another one? Was this the same one?
No, this is the
I'm
same
very,
one.
I'm very confused.
This is the same one.
Okay. Okay. All right. You're right, Michael. Yeah.
Sherman. Yeah, the Shermans.
All right. Um, he had planned to move next door to his brother when they both settled down with families. He was a captain in the United States Air Force and a dentist. His
Okay.
service in the USAF was what brought the couple through northern Arizona in the winter of 1977. Michael had just been reassigned to a base in California, and the couple had packed up everything and headed out west from Texas. The Sherman's brothers' parents are dead now. Ken told a local newspaper they died knowing justice was never served in their son's death.
So he was military.
Well, that makes it even more interesting now.
That he was military?
Yes. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
but what did he know?
What you doing there, Michael? Michael
Mm-hmm.
Sherman.
Mm-hmm. Conspiracy theories abound. Still on the case. Sumner went on to join the Coconino County Sheriff's Office Cold Case Unit in 2008. The Sherman's case continues to be investigated, and as recently as 2013, investigators traveled to Georgia to speak to a man and woman who fit the description given by witnesses in 1977. The man, who
Okay.
was serving a life sentence for another robbery homicide with similar characteristics, was eliminated as a suspect. Since crime solving technology has advanced considerably beyond what was available in 1977 and even 2007, when Sumner retired, the cold case unit has resubmitted evidence collected at the crime scene to a lab. Sumner said it appears to contain DNA that belongs to neither Michael nor Charlotte and likely came from the suspect. Is not Currently, there is not match, and the suspects remain at large. I think that's supposed to say there is not a match.
No match. Yeah.
And the suspects remain at large.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they did find some DNA. They just don't have anything to compare it to.
So here's what I'm thinking on that one. You have two scenarios. Some guys out there looking for money, got a 22 pistol.
Mm-hmm.
So I just go up and cap a couple people, take what he can, move on to the next one, cap a couple people, rob a store, whatever. The guy's just going through the rounds, right? Decides on this one he's going to shoot these people, right? There's that chance that could happen.
Sure.
Or there's a chance that this guy knew these guys and was doing this purposely, robbery or no robbery.
Uh-huh.
It seems more evident
I'm
to
leaning
me.
more towards that.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think some guy's just going to go up. You're good. Okay. Guy goes up, pulls out his gun to both Michael and his wife and says, "Give me your money."
Right.
Michael and him get in a scuffle fight, but the guy's still able to shoot them execution style, both of them.
Mm-hmm.
Wrong.
Right.
They were snuck up on or held at gunpoint and forced to. But
I'm sure they were.
I think they were shot very quickly. The fact that they were drugged behind that whatever monument tells me, and they were shot from behind. I think the guy would just walked up silently, was like boom, 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 or boom, 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 whatever. Before they really knew what happened, they were dead. And then he happened to see what kind of money they had on him.
Yeah, there's
made it look like a robbery.
one way to do it. I think.
So
I don't know, man. This is a tough one.
Being that he was in the military, it'd be really hard to find out. But I'm curious as to know what that guy knew that he shouldn't,
what
who
he was into, and
talking
why he was moving to California.
Who he shouldn't have. Right. It almost sounds like an insight. Could have been an inside job to me.
Could have been. He was a captain. So he was up there.
I just can't see somebody out of the blue just picking them and shooting them like that just for whatever, probably 20, 30, $100 and their person. I wonder
I
if they
don't know. Back
did it
then, they
say their
probably had more
car
than
was
that on them.
they say their car was taken too, or no? I don't think their car was taken.
No. No.
It's hard to say. Hard to say. If any listeners
I
know anything
know.
about
That's
that,
interesting. Yeah. If
you
anybody
guys
has
out there heard about that one,
any
let us
other
know.
ideas, yeah, let us know. That's a good one.
I like doing these. Maybe we can do some more of these missing and murdered episodes. We'll call them. Maybe we won't have to be necessarily in the Grand Canyon, right? But
Yeah. They can be anything. Missing and murdered episodes. Yeah.
Maybe check out some Yellowstone.
Could be
next.
anywhere. Yeah. Oh, I bet there's a bunch there.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
I like this stuff.
Yeah, and putting this out there, people may hear something and you never know, may clue into something, and there might be something that
Yeah, we might get to help somebody solve a murder.
That'd be the best thing that could happen.
That'd be pretty awesome.
Yeah. Well, with that, we'll wrap up this episode. Good hanging out.
Then
and
we can
talking
have
to
our
you.
own Hulu TV show. Only murders on the podcast.
There you go.
I don't know.
Well, we'll wrap this one up again as another good episode.
Man. Always fun. Yep.
Fun talking to you. And you guys remember, if you want to get a hold of us, shoot us an email. What's that email again, Brian?
TrueCrimeNation@outlook.com.
Yep.
Or you can get us on Instagram. You can get us on Facebook. You can get us on Twitter.
Yep. Just look for the red.
Like you see behind us right there. True Crime Nation.
Yep. Look for the red logo.
That's right.
The white letters. All right. Thanks again, my friend.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
Man, always fun. Always learning new stuff every time.
Listeners, thanks for listening. And remember,
monsters are real.